Let's get everybody quiet so you couldn't hear you.
You couldn't hear me.
Folks, can we listen up? We're going to be on a very, very tight schedule. This is something that is committed, so we need to, if you see our hands go up, that means stop talking, pay attention, you're going to get a direction.
The cutoff.
Cut off. So listen carefully, everybody. We have some index cards that are on the front table, and those will be used, if you have a question, please write it on the index card and deliver it to this front table for the committee members to look at your questions and answer your questions during question and answer period. Also,
Please listen up.
can I have your attention, please? Thank you. Thanks. We will also have some name tags. Do we have those over there, Frank?
They're not here yet.
Okay. All right. There are some name tags that will be delivered to your table. Please fill out your name tag and affix it to your shirt. It will be important for our second round of work. All right, I think it's a good idea to get started because we have just limited time. We have only 2 hours to do lots of work today. First of all, I want to welcome you all here and say I'm really happy that you're here and ready to do some work today on the survey. I'll introduce myself first. My name is Lynn Howard. I am a consultant in education. I've been working with the Strategic Planning Committee, formerly known as the Sustainability Committee. So that committee is now called the Strategic Planning Committee. I've been working with them for the past several months on strategic planning. I'll tell you a little bit more about strategic planning in a couple of minutes, but first I'll tell you a little bit about me. I've lived in New Hampshire for over 30 years, so if you're from New Hampshire, I'm one of you. If you're a Flatlander, I'm one of you also. I've raised my family in Unity, but I now live in Lyme, New Hampshire for the past 5 years or so. I've been in the field of education for my entire career. I've worked in the private sector, the public sector, nonprofit sector. I've had a variety of roles, including systems planning and organization such as this. I'm the kind of consultant that strives for flexibility, integrity, open-mindedness, and respect. And I have to say that in my work with the Strategic Planning Committee so far, I have to say that they clearly demonstrate all of those qualities, and it's a real pleasure to work with them. And not to mention that they're super hardworking people. Your committee members are Amanda Leslie, Nicole Lackey, Samantha Nelson, Jan Mitchell, Beth Burworth, Brenda Williams, Frank Perotti, and Karen McKeon. I look forward to our continued work together. So as Frank said, this is a 2-hour meeting and we have somebody coming in right after us. So we need to be really efficient with our time today. So I'm going to tightly facilitate this meeting and do our best to get as much done as we possibly can. But I do want to take a moment to tell you a little bit about strategic planning. So in a nutshell, strategic planning is looking at your current situation, thinking about what you want for the future, and then making a plan to get there. So it's simple, but not easy. So it's tough work, but it's important work. So the process involves gathering information, like we have with the survey that you're going to be looking at today, creating mission and vision statements, creating goals, creating an action plan to reach those goals, and then formulating and monitoring progress toward those goals. It does not include prejudice, preconceived notions, or personal agendas. But what it does include is all aspects of of an organization. So for example, with your school district, your strategic plan will include aspects for elementary, middle and high school, budget, curriculum, teaching and facilities, governance, culture, climate, and stakeholder relationships. So that's a lot. Before we get started, I'm going to ask you to agree to some important ground rules today, and to also to practice some norms for collaboration. And you'll find those sheets on your table, but I'll talk about it right now. I'll go over it with you right now. In order for this meeting to be productive, we ask that you agree to the following. Ground rules. Focus on the present and the future. There's no use dwelling in the past. We're moving forward. Pay attention to yourself and to others. How do you come off? And how are others receiving what you're saying? Listen respectfully to others, of course, especially those with views that are different than yours. Speak with positive intentions and assume positive intentions from others. So take what people say at face value. Those are the ground rules, and I hope that you will agree to abide by those today. Norms for collaboration. These are just some great tools for good communication. Pausing is one. Before you respond, just take a pause and really absorb what somebody else is saying. Paraphrasing, such as, let me see if I understand what you're saying, or here's what I'm hearing. Those are great paraphrasing techniques. Posing questions to get a little deeper, to understand what somebody's saying, and putting ideas on the table, using comments like, here's one idea, or here's a possible approach, or here's another consideration. So those are some norms for collaboration that you might like to try out today. So what's the purpose of today's meeting? Why are we here? Well, we're here to share the survey data, to have you look at the data, to have you absorb some of this data by topic, initially anyway, and to give you an opportunity to guide and to provide some guidance for the strategic committee, planning committee, and to talk with your neighbors and to listen to your neighbors. All right, so here's our outline for what we're going to do today. You're going to work in groups by your topic of interest. So you'll notice that there are table tents on the tables. So you look around, decide what you're interested in learning more about, go to that table, and you're going to look at the data that's on the table and draw some conclusions from that data. Look it over, talk amongst yourselves, draw some conclusions, and jot that down on the chart paper. You'll also be listing some top priorities, what you think you should focus on. Maybe some strengths that you come up with, or some solutions to some problems or challenges. When you hear the timer, which I will show you right now, when you hear this, round one will be over. You can dance if you want. After round one, I want you to stop what you're doing, pick up your chart paper, and stick it on the walls around the room. Take some Post-it notes and a pencil, and then begin to wander around and look and see what people have written. And you can use your Post-it notes to jot some additional comments and stick it right on the paper. The key to the gallery walk is that it's going to be silent. So no talking during the gallery walk. I know you'll be tempted to talk to one another, but it's really important that you be silent. When you hear the seaside sound again, you'll return to, we'll go into round two. Round two will involve you being assigned to a table. So your name tag should have a color on it, perhaps. Yes, here. So you'll go to the table that has the color that matches your name tag. So if you have a green on your name tag, you'll go to the green table. So you'll be randomly assigned. This time you'll have a fresh piece of chart paper, and you're going to answer the following questions related to all the topics. So the questions are, what did you find inspiring or interesting? What caused you concern? What ideas were sparked? And what connections did you make? And your directions and all of that is on the table, so you don't have to remember all that. While you're working, the committee will be looking at the questions that you've written on the index cards and also questions that came up in the survey.
Did you already mention the index card thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Then we'll move right into the question and answer period. And that's when the committee will take the questions and provide some answers for you. If your questions do not get answered today, it's entirely possible because we only have a limited amount of time. Please feel free to reach out to your committee members, and they will be happy to answer your questions, and we'll provide emails for that. Okay, after the question and answer period, we'll have a closing time. We'll ask you to turn and talk to the people at your table and answer 2 questions. What did you learn today, and what are your hopes for the future? Choose somebody to be your spokesperson at your table, and that person will report out to the rest of the group. And then lastly, we will tell you what our next steps are and tell you when our next meeting is, the next strategic committee meeting. So before you get started on round 1, I would like you to, if you find too many people at your table, just go ahead and find another topic. The goal is to have small groups, so we don't want too many people at one table. Again, there will be directions at your table. Spread yourselves out. Listen for the alarm. When that goes off, you put your stuff down and we'll go right into the gallery walk. All right, let's get started. Yeah, question. It's going to be approximately 20 minutes.
Thank you.
Yep.
And if we don't have any index cards, we can put one from
the survey.
How many people are changing tables?
Yeah.
To go with their.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I asked the question of when the data was presented.
So what, you have data for?
No, I mean, like, the survey data.
Yeah, this is the survey data.
Oh, sweet. Oh.
Yeah. So
Oh.
on your tables.
So we actually have to go around and read each question.
No, you're gonna, if you're working, you'll pick your table of top, your table of interest regarding.
But there won't be a presentation of
the entirety, not today.
Okay,
No.
that's what we thought. Just so you know,
Okay.
that's gonna come up on every.
Sure.
Because we can listen to your thing and because at the last board meeting we just went to last week, the question was asked, are we going to hear,
Yeah.
and they told us, yes, we
I
would.
think,
So I'm gonna let you know that. I'm just putting an air know that people are gonna expect to hear, like, for question 1, this is what this is. And it was asked at the board meeting, and I just, a lot of people go, well, I know it. When in it, I actually made here. Oh, of course, the actual presentation of the data, as in question 1. This person said this person said that. But they're on individual questions, right? That's what I understand. The gallery walk is what's being written. The gallery walk is not on the data.
however, I think that after the meeting,
You're gonna have to do it. It is gonna be. I'm just telling you, because I know. No, but I'm saying, but I know that's a lot of people thought before to do this, but that first one, and this is what the questionnaire showed us.
I think that's important.
I'm the same as you said. Which was a lot of people were here to actually hear question 1. This is this question. The actual individual, the student. I can't talk.
The school district.
Right, but individual questions are. Right, and then the see, I do too, and I said. Right, but I did not, I said. Let's make sure we get right. She said they will at some point. But that was. I was telling Yeah, all right. I've done this process. Yeah, I was gonna say when I heard that thing, gallery walk. Petey, no, they're all different. There's only one of them. That's what I'm saying. They're all different. Well, this is, all right. What I was no, and that's not what this is. I did like. I'm just wondering what is it? I'm gonna go over there. All right, this is common. That's good. Oh, wait. No, I didn't see the word. Yeah. The only problem was it's elementary and all of that. And that's what. So I don't know how. I don't know. But we don't have anything for support. Yeah. Right. Question about preschool, question about kindergarten. We don't have any. Oh, okay. So. That's right. Sorry, everything. Gotcha. Okay. I thought we were meeting. But I'm changing because that one. Well, what I thought. Okay. We go by that, we go by this.
There is overlap.
Those are the only questions on the survey that related to that. So have you thought about programs in general for the survey? Well, yes, teaching and instruction.
You're better off with that.
Yes.
Great question. I would. All right. And then Aaron, I promise you, I'm not trying to get troublemaker. I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm having teacher meeting national, so I want to make sure. So. And it says that
Oh, you should try teasers.
All right. And there's only one. Should we read these first together? So we do have to read all that. These are the strings of these. Okay, so let's. They're just kind of funny. Okay. I see what happened. Now we figured it out. Actually, I should know what that's saying. Yeah, I can read them in the challenge.
I think one, that's broad,
Yeah, I think what we're gonna like also because we can't do them all. We're gonna say which ones are the most important. So we start saying them, and then we'll say yeah. All right, so here are the mindset. People change. Unaware. Just the word unaware. So I guess we
I think there's data all around.
so like we can like lack of funds for teachers activities, townspeople here and not really value it. If you guys would get like budget. CBS has too many state budget providing adequate funding. How much it costs the taxpayers. Finances, staff, lack of placement, internet. Its cost structure is funding and constant attacks Yes, we're going to do we need to get so one is communication. Exactly. And another one is going to be And, so what you say, and add city of responsible. Funding tuition costs. So,
Did you guys enter any surveys like in the past? I think there's only like 6 that didn't go in.
Yeah.
Because it was just me and them.
CVS,
I don't think so. I think because when I last saw it, it was like 160 something.
Well, on Thursday night, there was 158, and I entered that together. Okay.
Well, I don't know who else would have entered them in yesterday. No, I don't think she entered any. I think it was only us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we can double check, but
Yeah.
somebody I think has the impression that there's a lot more that are not numbers. I think it's only like less than 10.
I
It
think
wouldn't
our
it wouldn't
tight,
really move.
our
if there-
tight timeline really did not help.
neither the school nor the county administration seems to have a clear idea of what they cost to maintain small prices. Croydon ranked 73. We ranked about. Challenge is teachers distribution. 5 to We say something, I'm trying to find a way to make priorities got funds. If you find it, put another priority, Okay, I was trying in my head to do what she said, and say, what be neutral. I think we're doing great. Yeah, and I think I'm doing Fluctuating enrollment. Direction is not
Give everybody a 5-minute warning.
Right. I see what you're saying, yeah, elementary. Okay, so maybe that's. I've seen a lot in this. Yeah. But I definitely.
Oh, Sherry, did you come?
I think this is a lot. I think it's going to be. Bring it place down. Names of people. Are you getting me? All right, I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, yeah, it seems to be.
Okay, actually staffing.
I got excited about it a few months ago.
I thought it was a good idea at first, and people sort of shot it down like really quick, and I thought it was a little bit prematurely shot down. But
Yeah, because you can buy those things used.
yeah,
Okay, I'm seeing the same.
Enterprise has a bunch of
Yeah.
yeah,
Facilities.
yeah, because the rental companies, they turn over their vehicles pretty fast, and you get good cars,
and they've been well taken care of.
very well maintained.
Staffing.
Yeah.
Staffing. That goes in defining county education.
There was lots to do there.
Yeah,
And there have been.
I think we got it. I think those are the main.
When will the entirety of the data be shared?
Yeah.
So that's
Great, okay. So look at, I just like how big. I just think it's gonna be easier to use. All right.
So, because people sharing that way, and then I would say that we would go they're just going to incorporate this finally. So it's to be ready to go. We address right now. Yeah, sure. And take your card paper.
See, I think we have masking tapes on this.
Take your chart paper, stick it on the wall, around the room, around the walking around, reading and reading notes on the chart paper. This is a silent gallery walk, so I'll ask you to not talk and to just go around reading and
No masking tape.
Maybe it wasn't.
I know, but it's fine.
I bet you don't have the first sheet filled out, the second sheet will be filled out the next time around. We'll have you.
So they need this, they have to have it hung up for the history gallery working in.
Oh, there it is. Wow, sorry about that. We didn't even have time for it. There we go.
How many we have?
These things don't stick well. Okay.
We have 10 minutes.
Oh, good. And everyone, we have about 3 minutes left or so. So I just want to remind you to continue to be silent when you hear the timer go off. You'll return to the table that matches the color on your name tag. You're going to get a different table.
Where will they find that color? Is it on the banner?
Yes.
Okay.
Where you said.
It's the border of the.
Oh, the outline?
The border.
I don't
Oh,
know.
the border.
In general.
That's the same conversation.
I cannot just. Oh, no, there's usually classes in there. You have the offset revenue.
Right.
You know, you have the offset revenue, so the budget is very. It's very good. Yeah, we're gonna do our first round of interviews Thursday. We had 8 applications. We talked one closed out. We're interviewing. So, yeah. 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 Interesting. It's a very interesting process overall. Nikki's doing a fine job. What happened to you guys last night? I'm assuming it's budget.
Oh, yeah.
It's all budget.
Well, the thing is budget.
Yeah.
I've never dealt with.
An actual formalized
Right.
budget committee.
Right. It has power.
Yeah. Lots of power.
Like, I saw Maura when I left Queens, Maura was up on the trails, and I'm like, oh, Maura.
Okay, that's the end of the gallery walk. Thank you. Now find the table that matches the border on the table 10, matches your name tag.
So Mike's the
So you have a green dot on your name tag, find the green border and go to that.
somebody in the community.
Now,
$1 million. Crazy. I don't know how people think you can do it. Honestly.
Thank you. This Are these old states?
My color was the table I was at, so I pick another one. So rather than going back to the same one, the idea was
That's reasonable. It's in the margin.
Okay, everybody, please, may I have your attention? We're gonna go into round 2. So for round 2, the directions are on your table, but I'll reiterate the questions that you'll be addressing. First, what did you find interesting or inspiring, perhaps? What caused you concern? What ideas may have been sparked as you looked around the room? And what connections did you make? So here you're considering all the data, not just the table, not just the particular topic on your table. So go ahead and you may get started with that. And repeat it again. Yes, I'll repeat it again. So you'll be considering,
Can you imagine?
may I have your attention so everyone can hear? May I have your attention so everyone can hear? So this is round 2. You'll consider all of the topics, everything that you just read about along in your gallery block. On your chart paper, you're going to write the answers to a few questions. You'll be considering what was inspiring or interesting, what caused you concern perhaps, what ideas may have been sparked as you looked around at your neighbors' comments and observations, and what connections did you make? The instructions are on your table, so you don't have to remember all of that. But talk amongst yourselves and write that down on the paper.
No, I wrote I was trying to just said it's inspiring, concerning, and I mean, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Maybe it's end up that was our sure. So don't wrong end because so you say 83 passengers that and they would do all the maintenance on it.
Well, I'll tell you.
We need to figure it out, or we didn't have a bus driver, and we didn't have any. So
They're
that
providing.
was thank you.
You're right.
And that's how we do it. Staffing. And you
Well,
have things.
It's very difficult. It's literally ideas and connections. We need to.
So we need to talk about these things today. I'm thinking more about
I mean, I think we all.
and that's
Making me hungry.
Oh, was that in there? There are some ideas. I gotta tell you,
This stuff's all available somewhere, but it seems like a lot of people, whatever they think of it, they don't really know.
once you get,
Yeah.
I didn't write
Like
the
that,
word, I just put that.
don't know how to answer.
What's in this, right?
Like
So,
some of it doesn't.
yeah, it's very, it's just fascinating. So what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?
So maybe certain lots, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, are you gonna pick me up?
Yes.
She starts yapping at the table. And she said, I'm like, well, you're so sensitive.
Mine is ancestry. Like you really gotta go out there and reach them. I mean, not that. Well, that's not.
I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, so anyway, they.
Well, these are too old, I think.
Of what's going on.
We did.
Which is what, 50,000?
Yeah, yeah. Inspiring. Any other inspiration? I mean, I guess it's good to see.
I can be saying, even the people that were coming from
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd say, it seemed like the sheet I had was. But I mean, maybe high, but I'm saying there's the number of people actually yeah. Well, maybe a concern is just, I guess that shows. I mean, that's my question. Ideas start. Okay, so we had ideas. Did anyone else see any right? The van. I mean, I personally didn't see a lot of.
Yeah, I know, I was thinking like, oh, so.
When is the game? Wednesday.
I'm just gonna copy Dave.
Are you trying to?
And that's it.
But I guess, yeah.
How many positions do they
I mean, but I'm certain what's on there, the same thing.
Blue, big white? Very nice. They're not.
I mean, one thing that seems consistent.
Very, very nice. I thought, wow, that would be nice. Very nice.
What is the biggest thing?
I'm trying to think if there was connections between.
Is you're acting.
The connection really is that. I mean, not all of these, but. I think the connection. And slash. I mean, like you brought up other things like. So, I mean, that's not really.
I don't know, I read
What ideas were sparked to make you think of anything else? But also,
every week, people love that. They did from the system.
positive marketing.
And also, I can cancel the I give, they're paying for it, they have a right connection. I think that's the privacy zone is they're paying for it, that was different.
Yeah, something with that kind of like, cancel or we have public pay for privacy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you see it does. I don't know if you're probably due to a system out there too.
But I guess the question. I mean, it's obviously don't see the same. Public or private sort of companies. It's come up in this committee and other things like Aaron's talking about. You know, you can't do it. Not a story, it's not good. That's the thing.
I think they use the
So maybe that's an ongoing.
that Lynn's gonna take all of these.
How do you compare the actual outcomes? School choice. A lot of them. See how much unsure there is. I didn't see this.
No, I. Right. And I was right up.
Whether that's Rico, they don't actually have but they're still yeah, I mean, that's how the equation facilities part, almost all, the vast majority of it. And I think that's, people don't know what the size is, what actually happens. Sorting it out, replacing numbers, this is tuitioning, this is replacing, I mean, I'm not in the school. I mean, I do know that the big white is like a modular building, so it's like kind of in theory has a life expectancy which is already passed. So I think the idea, I mean, our question is, if something catastrophic occurs, blah blah. I mean, I think the idea starts because they're here, they're there, there's this, there's that, and there's no, it's not the same. Whereas when they're in little schools, so I think to me that, an idea spark is maybe how do you build that that's not. I mean, maybe they don't have to. I probably would do actually 7. I mean, they don't want to. Maybe they do. Yeah, that's what I think. So, I mean, there's some. Like, maybe go to the. So, Royal.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the round 2, may I have your attention? Thank you very much. May I have your attention, please, so everyone can hear? Thank you, that's the end of round 2. So now we're going into the question and answer period. So thank you for all the work and great conversations that you were having. The committee has gathered some of your questions and is ready to answer.
So I do want to briefly say I heard from a couple of people that they're struggling to hear. So I'm going to encourage you, feel free to move closer and ask that we can try to really not have the side conversations because that makes it harder for people as well. Sam and I were looking over the questions that were on the survey, and many of them were overlapping. And so we wanted to address some of those and kind of our informal answers to them. Can you guys hear okay at this point? Trying to use my teacher voice. So there were a number of questions and concerns expressed about the timeline of the survey and the format. And that was something discussed by the committee. There was a lot of back and forth and question as to whether we should put out a digital version, just paper. How would we control the answers that we were getting? And it was really in response to concerns that we went with just paper copies mailed out to all voters in the town. And the turnaround time was definitely really short. And, you know, we apologize for that. We acknowledge that. But it was to work with the pre-established timeline that we have working with Lynn Howard through the rest of the school year and really trying to get all of this work done. So we absolutely acknowledge, I agree, it did feel rushed, but such is the nature of the beast.
Another question? Yes.
I just wanted to ask whether all the survey results were included in the info that we have this morning.
Not quite all of them. There were a few that came in after the data was entered, and I think it's a couple dozen.
No, I think there was like 6 or so. All the data that you have today includes everything through Thursday, and I don't know if, like, I didn't enter any since Thursday. The last I entered was on Tuesday. So I think if anything, there's maybe just a few, like maybe 6 at tops, but we can confirm that for you. Nicole's nodding her head, I think.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. I haven't gotten anything back in the last week.
Yeah.
A related question. I mean, so we really only saw like a couple of graphs, depending on what tables you were on. Can you make those graphs available to everybody?
Yes.
Did every up on the website, once the last, those extras that we missed, she's gonna look through the data again, and then it'll go up on the website under the policy, or under the strategic planning committee tab.
Okay, another question that we received quite a few of is the goal of the committee. And the goal of this committee is to really assess the town's understanding and desires to develop a long-term plan. So that with the survey being sent out, we were able to gather people's thoughts, concerns, all of that. And we will work to come up with a plan based on what the town said in those results.
Another set of questions were about the demographic and financial information that was provided with the survey, and that it was not enough or confusing. And it certainly was limited in scope and was meant really to just offer a snapshot of some of the relevant information that you might need to have in order to answer some of the questions. So it was really just for context and is definitely more complex than was portrayed.
Question of how the survey was developed, where those questions came from. That was the collaborative effort of the entire committee with the help of Lynn. We came up with those questions.
As well as Frank. I'll add something too on the questions, because I know, like, in seeing some of the open responses, there were some questions that triggered a few people. And I wouldn't read too much into the intent of the questions, but to use an example like the kindergarten question, you know, there's a lot of division in town about a number of things, obviously exacerbated by Ian's budget cut, but even before that. And rather than not ask uncomfortable questions, we felt it more appropriate to ask them so that we could see
as definitively as possible what are the true opinions of people out there, rather than just sort of ignoring certain topics. So that was really the motivation of the committee. There, no other intent besides information gathering, understanding what does the community as a whole feel about all of these topics that we're facing.
And a follow-up on that, there were a number of questions and concerns expressed on the surveys that we were collecting blind opinions from people who really have no basis for knowing or answering in an informed way. And again, it was really for information gathering. Hopefully, in the process of filling out the survey, it raised awareness of these related topics. And relatedly, those same people, even if they have blind opinions, are going to be in our town elections, in our wider state elections, and on our budgets. So whether they have those opinions, and any information behind them or not, they are certainly making decisions based on them.
And can I just pop in right here?
Yeah.
I just want to say, as a neutral party, developing the questions was really quite a collaborative effort. And I noticed that, this whole committee really worked very hard to make sure, or to try to make sure, that the questions were posed in a very, without intent. Creating, as you can imagine, creating survey questions is hard. It's very hard. So just, a little bit of forgiveness in that would certainly be appreciated, because I witnessed this team working super hard to make sure that those questions were as neutral as possible, just to really gather some information, no intent behind them.
And then maybe the last thing I want to address was there were some questions and concerns about the meetings themselves, when they're being held, how people can access that information. They are being announced at the school board meetings, which are posted, but I think that's a bigger concern that we saw in some of the results and the conversations here today, that there's not a clear and consistent town-wide way to communicate all of these things, which I know a lot of people are trying to work on, and that's certainly affecting this committee as well.
To follow up on that, any meeting that the school is having is on the front page of the website in the calendar portion. So spread that word, because I know that is a difficulty for people. If you just scroll down to the bottom of the first page, all of our meetings are there, okay? Yes?
When you mention website, are you specifically saying school board website or town website?
It is the CroydonSD.org website, Croydon School District.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the school's website.
Croydon SD.
S for school, D for district. The letters, SD.
I was going to ask if any other questions. Jan just whispered one to me, wanting to know how many surveys were sent out, how many came back. We sent one out to basically everybody on the voter list, which I think was 400 and some odd names. And we got 160 or so responses back.
It says 158 right on the paper there, so.
Yeah, and I think there might be a few more.
What, 30%?
Your math may be better than mine. But it's a pretty good response rate for Croydon. I would have hoped for more. I think we would have gotten more if we did an online distribution. But there was some as Amanda mentioned, there was some last minute worry over people being able to submit things twice or whatnot. So we pivoted on that one. Other questions? Yeah.
Can you share details about the SU costs and how they were divided up for all of the grades? When I looked at it, it looked like they were all in the K to 4 block, and so I was hoping you could share more info about that.
Yeah, Beth can answer that one. She used the official numbers. there.
Yeah, so when you report to the state of New Hampshire, they report your SAU cost and your total tuition cost. They don't break it out for X percentage K4, X percentage 5.8, X percentage. It's not broken out that way. And when we discussed this information for the survey, we felt it was important that an individual could go to the state DOE website and match those numbers. So for reporting purposes at the state, they do not take the SAU and divide it out amongst pupils. Now, when we present the budget, we always have a chart and we apportion what we believe is the SAU cost based on student numbers. So we were trying really more than anything to just be able to match to what the state requires us to report and how they report it. You're responsible for educating all the students. It doesn't apportion out for each individual student how much the SAU costs. So you're a district and you have a responsibility for all students and the total cost of that.
So I was just hoping to focus on the really high number for K4 versus it was like a much lower number for the older students.
So your older students are tuition based. You will not find that number on the state DOE's website. You're going to find the $27,000 number because it's the cost to educate all students, to which you're taking a combination of all those expenses.
Beth and I actually talked at length about that before the survey was finalized. I shared your same thought about 27,000. I was like, oh, that seems very high. So I talked to Frank, talked to Beth. It's very influenced by the number of students that are enrolled in any given year. So that particular year, there were fewer children enrolled. So the cost per pupil goes up.
Goes way up.
Other years, it might be 22,000. But directionally speaking, it's always more than the school choice piece, 5 to 12, because we have less expensive schools that are averaging in Montessori, Mount Royal, and whatnot. So directionally speaking, it's accurate in that the upper grades are less expensive to us than the lower grades. Oh.
Beth, I just want to make sure I understand what you said and then.
Sure.
So if I understand this right, all the administrative and other expenses of the SAU are included in the per student quote unquote tuition costs for K-4. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
But the SAU services include, for example, Frank's work to develop the contracts for all the 5 through 12 students. They all have individual contracts with their districts, various other things, transportation, whatever. I think it might be helpful if we could have a number, and I'm recognizing that this isn't something that will correlate with the DOE, and I appreciate the value of what you did with that. But if we could have a number that took our SAU expenses and divided it by our total number of students, that I think would give us a different way to look at what the cost of Little Red is.
Sure.
And the contrast between the less expensive school choice versus in town.
Can you remind me, is the principal included in the SAU cost, or is that?
No, principal is not included in the SAU cost. So when we developed the budget, we put out all the documents in a couple of weeks. We actually do have a chart that breaks out all of those costs, what it costs you for Little Red and Big White. And we apportion out the SAU cost based on the number of students. Mm-hmm. So we actually provide that to the public and have done that for a number of years. And I think that's probably more the number that you're looking for in terms of student cost. And those costs are different based on where the students are residing.
So just to follow up then, that number that you just described is easily available.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, we provided with the budget.
Take that number and add it per student amount to each school choice cost to get a more complete picture of educating students in different contexts.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Let me just add one more piece to that, because our different contracts with the different participating schools give us different services. So Newport, if we have a student there that needs a 3-year reevaluation, which can be up to a $2,000 cost, they do that without extra charge. Another school where we have a student may have a lower tuition, but they do not include all of those services. So even though we have like tuition rates, each one of those will include a little bit different services and things. So everything is more complicated than it seems. But that is one of the pieces to be aware of also.
No other questions?
Open question. Sure. My question is, what happens now that you have this done? What is your next step?
So Lynn was asking what the next step is now that we've had this meeting.
Lynn.
It's a double win. I was going to tell you that at the end, but I'll tell you right now. So the next committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for February 6th. Meeting, we will begin to consolidate all this information, academic data, and other kinds of data as well. And we will come up with a draft mission and vision statement between that meeting and the following meeting. And then from there, we'll start to formulate some goals around that. Oh, good question. What time is the meeting?
6:30 at Big White.
6:30 at Big White.
So there's other
sorry.
people in the committee?
How
many
yes.
people on the committee? 5.
5, yes.
And so one person's not here? who's-
No, Jan and Brenda.
Oh, Jan.
I'm probably
Okay.
talking to Brenda.
Thank
sorry.
you. Okay. Got it.
I've been
I weren't there.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You mentioned that you'll have your February meeting.
Mhm.
Then as far as the rest of us who have participated in this, what do we know then?
Good question. I think, you're talking about perhaps the rest of the totality of the survey data being one piece of it. So what's the plan for distributing the data in its entirety?
I would recommend maybe we give Nicole a PDF and she can post it on the website. Yeah.
Right, so the plan was to do it on the website. We also have, Aaron does a committee update at every school board meeting.
Mhm.
So if you show up or view online the school board meetings, there is a portion where Aaron will give an update each time. But to see the rest of the data, we'll get us online. I don't know the timeline per se on that, to Lynn.
Yeah. That would be soon, as soon as we can get the rest of the responses in.
I know that the school board meets on the 31st, but that's the budget hearing, so there would not be committee updates at that point.
Oh, sorry.
Presentation.
I would imagine, we haven't talked about that, but usually the committees each give a.
Yeah, the
some sort of
budget hearing
presentation.
goes first, and when that ends, then we have a regular meeting following.
Oh.
Yeah, because we have to, in regular meeting, approve the budget and warrant articles, but we also do committee updates and things like that.
It's on the 31st.
Pardon me?
On the 31st? or is
Yes,
that-
we could, yeah. Yeah. So depends what we want to put on that agenda.
So even before the next committee meeting for the strategic planning, there is a school board meeting and they're just saying, yes, we can offer committee updates, and that's on January 31st. And then at the annual school meeting, there are typically committee updates and reports as well on March 18th.
And then to just follow up a little bit more on your question. So the mission and vision statements, whatever draft statements the committee comes up with, again, would be posted for your information and input. So if you have input on those statements, reach out to your committee members. Does that answer your question?
I think, maybe a follow-up question is there, at least at this point in your minds, is there any intent to have citizens come back again for any further comments or more brainstorming? Is this a committee that's going to just continue to bring citizens in on a regular basis of annually or anything of that sort? What's your thought about the future?
You can always go to a meeting.
No, I know, but this is specific to this brainstorming type.
Yeah.
You don't do brainstorming in a
Right.
general
So-
meeting.
The committee, I think, really hasn't gotten all the way through all of that. I mean, I think we've put in a tremendous amount of energy, the committee has, with our input to help them, but in terms of getting this far, this was a huge step to get this level of input, and there's a bit of an expense as well. But I think worth it, because the information we have, there's a lot of data there. And all those little Post-its and all that all have to be digested. So my guidance to the committee will be that once they have done all that and we have gotten through and actually created a draft strategic plan, that we reopen a meeting like this to present that work, so that all of you who have done all this work get to see the results of that and to get feedback on that before they do a final draft or a final report that they send to the board. So that's what I would suggest. I'm thinking it'll be late spring before we get near that, but I would love to see all that done before the end of the school year, but June 30th, have September, April, June, and November, June 30th. Yeah.
Jim's had his hand up.
That also nice. I would like to provide a more realistic and honest answer to the question that was given. There's been a lot of window dressing here. The real purpose of these activities is not what you've been told. It is to manufacture consensus, to support conclusions which have either already been made or are about to be made. This is not really here to hear what you have to say, okay? That is not the goal. It is meant to look that way. It is so when a decision is made, it feels like everybody in this room contributed and it was a town decision. That is not the purpose. This is not me making this up. Kathy and I have seen this 5 or 6 times in 3 different states. It is a common trick. It relies on the fact that most of you haven't seen it several times. This is meant to manufacture consensus. It is not a legitimate consensus building activity. We already have existing mechanisms to do that. For the board to know what the public wants. The board, the elected board, not the appointed committees, not appointed superintendents and other staff members, are the representatives of the public. They're the true representatives of the public, and they're the ones who will decide what the public is looking and tells them that they want. This process, in my opinion, is largely a sham, and I think I urge you all to look it up online. Excuse me, what?
Then why are you here if you think it's a sham?
I didn't know what was going to happen. I was expecting coming here something very different than what actually happened. When I walked in the room, I'm like, oh, it's a Delphi meeting, because I recognized it. I've seen it. Please look up Delphi technique. It was developed by Rand Corporation in the 60s with good intentions, but ultimately became co-opted as a way to manufacture consensus. That's what this meeting is.
Thank you for your input. I'm sure not everyone agrees with that assessment of it.
What did you think it was going to be?
I didn't know. I was almost expecting that you put the firehouse, just because you know a lot of people are going to be here, and that you guys would sit up front and project the results of the survey, and we would discuss the survey. I wasn't expecting the sort of 3rd grade crayon streak that we got today. But that's characteristic of this technique. And to anyone who's seen it, it's obvious. And I know most of you have never seen it or have heard it. I encourage you to look it up, because I'm not making this up. It's out there.
You said you've seen this in like 2 or 3 states?
I'm sorry?
You said you've seen this in like 2 or 3 other states?
Yes, that's correct.
Try it for
What?
All right, I think, I don't think we need to dwell on this.
We have another question over here. Go ahead, Lynn.
I just want to make a comment because I don't want to leave this on a sour note. I tend to see the positive things. And I know for a fact that one of the reasons that we need this is because we are so polarizing. We have so many opinions and we don't agree. And I want to say that for the vast majority, I was impressed today with the fact that we could sit down with people we disagree with and go through data and information in a sequence and well, that's all.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody, for your participation and your questions. Because of time, we're going to move into our closing activity. And so what I'd like you to do at your tables is to just turn and talk with one another. I'd like you to answer a couple questions. One is, what did you learn today? The second one is, what are your hopes for the future? Assign a spokesperson to your table and to report out to the group we've done it. So you can get started with that. And we'll do that for about 5 or so minutes.
I just want to synthesize this down for the overlay. Okay, so they want these, do you want these? Yeah. Or I'm gonna take you later, we're collecting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what did we learn here?
All right.
Now, are we getting off track? This is what we learned today. What did we learn today? Well, I'm trying to. I'm leaving this at 5. You doesn't want to purchase, you know how people say that.
Yes. I learned and it's going to be I saw your face.
In your research, maybe you could find out from some school board how much they just paid for their DWI.
It's that might be a good solution. I don't see the town getting
No. Not according to the survey.
No. The only way that would happen is if somebody like this building, some person decided to make that a goal and put their name on it.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're there.
No way.
But that could be a possibility. The other thing that I think is a really real possibility is that the internet stays open as a K-12.
That's absolutely. Because if it doesn't, it never can be again.
Right. Yeah, bring it up.
Even if all you have is K in first grade.
Yeah, it's true.
Time's up. Time's up, everybody. Excuse me, can I have your attention, please? We have just a few minutes left today, so I want to. Can I have your attention so everyone's here, please? Thank you. So if you assigned a spokesperson at your table, please report out what your hopes are and what you learned today. Can I start with this lovely table over here? You have a spokesperson?
I was voluntold. I guess our hopes for the future are that we continue communication. We're a great community and we all have valued opinions, whether we agree with them or not. If we got together, maybe quarterly, a couple of times a year, come together here, discuss the issues, discuss what's bothering us, and come together as a community to solve the issues, or at least voice our opinions. But bottom line, communication within this community needs to continue and grow and improve. And that's what we came up with.
Thank you. Can we go to the back table?
Okay, I asked the gentleman to be the spokesperson, but they said I had better. So, a couple things. One, we're trying to better understand the town demographics, how much of our community is senior citizens or otherwise folks who have less direct connection to the schools, and how do we reach out to everybody, echoing the communication theme from this table, but particularly to people who don't have direct connection to the schools. So need for communication. Henry brought up that Newport has a quarterly e-newsletter that's both news from the town and the school, which I think anybody can sign up for. So that may be a way for some of us who are not directly connected to the Newport school to know more about what's going on there, and maybe Croydon can do something similar to that. And I'm going to just echo Missy's comment about an ongoing community meeting structure of some kind. We need to talk and listen. Thank you.
Thank you. This back table here.
We came away with the necessity of more stability amongst the board, the community, and the teachers. Not that I always subscribe to my own advice. Teacher retention is a large issue, and once that issue would be figured out, if it's figured out, that would lead to more stability amongst the students and their progression through grades, because it's hard for somebody to pick up where someone else left off you have no idea where those individual students actually stand as a new teacher. So, I mean, that's a tough role to step into. And again, communication throughout. I mean, I think transparency goes a long way. I mean, so that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about this table right here? You have a spokesperson?
We found two things that we agree on that we've learned today. One is that school choice is important, and the other is that residents of Croydon want to keep education affordable.
Thank you. Front table? And then
Parents
we'll
was very general on the day. What we felt we learned is that there's a lot of care in this community for education, no matter what your opinions are. That people are here willing to talk about what's important to them. And the same for the future of schools. The future of our school is important to people, and that there's hope. You know, this isn't a done deal. There's hope that we can get together and fix this. Our major concern was that when we did the boundary walk, there were a lot of sections on the page that said solutions. They had none. And so we're hoping that's not, because
it could have been a function of
thing
time
rather than we don't have solutions. But our general overall feeling was that it was positive.
Thank you, Lynn. This table over here?
Sure. So what did we learn today? At our table, folks understand that everybody has different ideas and there are some great ideas that are presented. All good. And particularly around transportation, that was an area that they felt they learned a lot more about what was happening, that some data is needed to maybe inform what way you go in the future versus a van versus a bus versus multiple vans. So, and for the future, what they would like to see is the school board members to know every student in the district, where they are. They would like the school board members to know the staff and work with the administration in a respectful and collaborative way.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I think this table, this table here? Okay, I'll come to you next. Who wants to go to this table next?
Oh, sure. Let's go through two. All right. First thing, we encourage all of you to be very aware of wolves in sheep's clothing. Secondly, I'm not talking about myself, if anyone wants to say that. Secondly, communication, open communication, and the freedom to express your ideas is important. So don't tell people to leave the state if they don't agree with you.
Thank you.
I was just saying, if there's more exploration.
And finally, we'll go to this table over here.
Yeah, what I learned is that, most people today wanted to participate in the exercise and some didn't, and they can really ruin it for the rest of the group. And we're looking forward. I hope we can get past that and, leave our preconceived notions at the door when we come to an exercise like this and be willing to listen.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. Would the committee like to say anything more regarding what you learned or what your hopes are for the future? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I mean, I think all the things that were already said were really great, and I certainly agree with pretty much all of them. So I don't know if any of the other committee members has anything to add.
I agree.
And I would reiterate what Lynn shared earlier, that I feel like this committee really has worked collaboratively and open-mindedly, despite people coming in with really different perspectives and backgrounds. And so I anticipate that will continue and that we will openly move forward with all of the conversation and work done here in mind.
Thank you. Yes, this work is hard work, as you all know, and I definitely see that everybody has the district's best interests at heart. So with that, I will share the meeting date one more time for the next meeting, and we are ending right on time. So the next committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for February 6th. Go ahead and look at the website for that to be confirmed. You'll also find the entirety of the data from the survey on the website soon. as soon as we get those last few responses entered. And that's it for today. Thank you.
Before everybody goes, if I could, just want to remind folks that the budget hearing for the school district is January 31st. It is at 6:30 PM and it will be in the town hall. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Mr. Angie, what have you decided?
What you're coming for?
For what? No, I'm not. You've been on it for years. We can talk about another year, but Deb